All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, let's get cracking. Things to do. A brand new week.
All 5 days.
That's right. Yeah, there's no slacking this week. There's no 4-day weeks to sit and do nothing in. There's no excuse for you to not get stuck in properly. And man, I can feel like it is definitely. There's no excuse for not waking up early and waking up immediately because it's now cold. So you get out of bed and it's like, okay, I guess I'm awake. I'm there.
Yes.
Yeah, you feel it biting your balls. That's how cold it is. So, here we are. Hello, Leigh-Ann Mole.
Hello. Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Let's see what's going
yes.
on. Leigh-Ann is frozen. There she is. Hello, Leigh-Ann Mole. Hello. There she is.
Hello.
I can see her now. All right. So, morning, everybody. What's happening? First of all, how was your weekend?
Well, this morning I was thinking about you, since you wait for the 1st of May before you get blankets and whatnot done. So what is that like? Do you have a whole ceremony on the 1st? Do you have angels sing for you in the background as you so grateful to have
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why I've got this rule in my head. I sometimes make stupid rules up that are unnecessary and make no sense at all. But I only give leeway to myself to actually bring heaters and electric blankets and big thick blankets for the bed and all that kind of crap. I only allow myself to do that from the 1st of May because maybe somewhere in my Calvinist genetic makeup there must be some part of me that's like, you must suffer a little bit, you must feel the pain.
Yes, even though you live in order to appreciate. So
exactly.
You'll go to a braai and you've taken a warm jacket, but you'll wait until you really need it, so that when you put it on, it's like, dis baie lekker. Jy sommer vat dit weer af en sit dit nog op again.
Well, that's very good, Leigh-Ann. Your Afrikaans are improving. It was pretty chilly last night, though. I'll give you that. It was one of those nights where you actually were really, really happy to be in bed rather than somewhere else. I don't know what's wrong with people, why they want to party on a Sunday night. I see these things on Instagram of like people going out on a Sunday, and it's incredible. Like we discussed this briefly the other day. But on a Sunday, the last thing I want to do, in fact, even if you came to me on a Sunday night, to my house, and you said to me, let's just have a coffee, I'd be like, nah, Sunday, not really in the mood to see people. Sunday is a super chill day.
I think it's either students who go out on a Sunday or people who really, really want to squeeze everything out of their weekend. It's people like that.
Correct. Yeah, they want to squeeze every drop out of the weekend. That's what I think it comes from. Anyway, there's quite a lot going on in the world. I don't know how we missed this, and I want to make it a big apology, but we always used to talk about Kirk Douglas, and then when he died, because he was like the oldest man in the whole world. And he used to introduce our news just after he had his stroke, and he couldn't get much other work in Hollywood. So we gave Kirk Douglas the job of like introducing the news, which got us into trouble because people thought we were mocking him, but it was actually him.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are very few people who can get work if they have a speech problem, which is what he had after the stroke. And we gave him a job. We were like, come and introduce the news for us, Kirk. And he was like, no problem, or whatever it was that he used to say. And so we used to pay a lot of attention to him. And apparently his wife, Anne, died at 102 years old last week. And we didn't even know. 102, Anne Douglas. How's that, huh?
Shame, man. What a life.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to live that long, but
if you're in good health, sure. But I mean, I think you sometimes see it with old people, and I know Ricky Gervais has done that brilliant show Afterlife. You can see it with some people. They're just like, okay, I've had enough now. I actually don't want to be around. And like 102, you probably start going, okay, I've had my fill of life. Thank you. It's done. And I'm saying this as a person who wants to live forever. I played this really fun game on Saturday. Oh, I did do something cool on Saturday I must tell you about. I went to one of my favorite places in the whole world. It's a wow. How do I begin to describe this? It's called Collector's Treasury. It's this 6-story building. I've told you about it before, I think, where they sell old books and vinyl records and porcelain. And it's in Commissioner Street in like the worst part of Johannesburg. And these 2 brothers, the Class brothers, have been there for, I don't know, probably as long as Anne Douglas has been alive. And they just, what they do is they find all these secondhand books and things from people's estates when they die without heirs or whatever. And they buy up the whole lot. And then you can go there and you could spend hours just sifting. But let me tell you, it's chaos. In fact, I'll try and put a picture of this up on the show this morning, just so you can get an idea of like the kind of crazy that this place is, because I love going there, but there are very few people who also would love to be there. I mean, it's a mess. So it really jars with my need for order, but you can find the most incredible things there. And the 2 men that run it, these 2 brothers that have been there for years and years and years, they are just the most interesting people. I mean, 2 smart people, but it's chaos all around them, right? It's just a disaster. Everywhere you look, there are piles of books and piles of things, and it's mad chaos. And I went there with.
It reminds me of a place called Demolition World that used to exist, where there were places that had either been, declared bankrupt, or homes that had been auctioned or not being able to be auctioned. They would demolish parts of the house and put parts of the house on this plot that you could go and visit. So you could get a whole kitchen or like 2 walls of bookcases with the books still in them, window frames, doors, but like really amazing things. Yeah, it is. I picked up some paintings, or not paintings, they were sketches rather, from someone who had lived in a house previously. And they were framed and everything. And I've got them on my wall. They were lovely.
That's so cool. Oh, man. Well, I'm just going to find you 1 or 2 examples of this place, because the pictures, they don't really do it justice. But there's like floors and floors and floors of this. I love Demolition World, though. I just love the way they call it world. It's like someone, like Meat World. There's a place called Meat World. And I'm like, really, Meat World? Is that necessary, Anything that's world, it's like Disney World. You're like, okay, but with meat. You know what I mean?
Too much.
So I went there in the morning with 2 of my cousins, who I also really enjoy being around because they're hilarious people. And we went for lunch afterwards, which was terrific. And our lunch ended at like 4 p.m. So it was a proper day. We arrived there at like 10 in the morning, and then we only left at 4 p.m. So it was a really good, lazy Saturday. So that was tremendous fun. But also going into town, Johannesburg, I've got to say, like, Joburg gets a bad rap. It's not, there isn't litter everywhere. It isn't filthy. It isn't dirty. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, Joburg, it's such a mess. It really isn't. It's actually a fantastic place. And there are some very, very interesting.
Concrete world.
Concrete world, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Like, imagine going to Concrete World. Where are you off to? Concrete World. It just sounds so good.
I did a night run through town, a 10K run, and it was a proper event. And while I was running, and this is just to go against what you've just said, unfortunately, but I could hear rats squealing and see them running in front of me as I was passing over old rail lines.
Oh no.
No. So what I'm trying to say is that, there are trees that have been planted and staked in the ground. This is all along Commissioner Street. The paving is clean. There's a little bit of litter lying around, but it's not filthy. It's not like it's not like you would imagine downtown Mogadishu looks like. And I think Johannesburg has still got some serious charm. And there are places in town. I mean, listen, first of all, you could probably get anything you wanted in town in Johannesburg. Anything you wanted. Like if you were looking for a baboon's pinky finger, you could find it. If you were looking for an Hermes scarf from the 1970s, you'd be able to find. You just need to know who to ask, and you'd find pretty much anything you wanted. So since we're talking about collectors and Collectomania today, here's what Collector's Treasury looks like. Let me just show you this picture quickly. For God's sake, why won't it load? Am I doing something wrong here, Sia?
I have no idea. They aren't loaded on my side either.
Oh, something happened.
I don't know
there.
what's happening. Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. I'm not having any luck. But it was so funny. So we were having lunch in Parkhurst, and I immediately thought of that dude who drove into the news cafe that we talked about on Friday.
I've thought about it countless times.
That pizza
I was just thinking, and he just drove into those people and into that restaurant, and I was just thinking, most times people don't even consider that that's a possibility. And now I'm thinking about it all the time,
Yeah.
Anyway, it's like when you say goodbye to your kids and you say, travel safely, or make sure you've got an Uber and take protection and phone me if there's a problem. That's the last thing you imagine. Someone ramming their car relentlessly into the walls.
Yeah, crazy lunatics. And there are lunatics in the world. Anyway, so this place is just, I can't describe it better than I already have. Just piles of books and things everywhere, and incredibly
Did you get any
interesting. Oh, no, because if you start buying there, you have to fill boxes. Plus, we Ubered into town, so I wasn't going to lug a big box of books around with me, big, heavy books. I do want to say, though, that you will find absolute treasures in there, and then you will sometimes find like stuff that people have just thrown. I saw Adrian Groenewold's book on top of a pile of books there. I saw you get books that are printed 120 years ago, and some of them are really expensive because they're collector's items, and others are just kind of they've been thrown out and nobody wants them, so you can buy it for like 50 Rand. I found a book. I did buy one. I bought, and this was at there was a book fair at the Rand Club, and they were selling a whole lot of kind of African and South African history books. I found a cartoon, a book of cartoons by a really talented artist, and I'll see if I can't put this up on Instagram or something today, so you can see what I'm talking about. But it featured my great-grandfather and great-grandmother in it. Yeah. And it had like the old family house in there, and this artist had told the whole story of Eugene Marais and the day that he committed suicide. So it was quite incredible to see that. Yeah. So you know what? There's plenty of really interesting stuff for you to see if you're prepared to look for it, even in a place like Joburg, which I know there are parts of this country that they poo-poo Joburg, but you're making a big mistake.
My parents have a coffee table book called Hidden Joburg.
Oh yeah,
and it's about these underground troves and treasure places of old bank vaults and places that you can visit, and old train stations and lobbies and all gorgeous, preserved spots in Joburg. And there are walking tours and bus tours that you can take as well.
Yeah. Listen,
but this city is also so magnificent because of it, how much there is here and how varied it is. Like you can see the poorest of the poor, and also 20 minutes later be surrounded by the most glamorous and gorgeousness that you've ever seen. That's just the contrast of
it's like me. It's like me. My neighboring suburb is Westcliff.
I know.
Gosh. I have to say, I went to the most opulent house I've ever seen before this weekend. Yes. It was incredible. Oh gosh.
Who, why, and how, and have we seen it on top billing?
I don't know about that last part, but it was a friend of mine from out of town was in town this weekend. And
Yes.
the funny thing with out of town is since they have no concept of where things are around town, she wanted to kill two birds with one stone. She had to go and meet her boss. Her boss invited her for dinner. And then she thought she also wanted to see me. So she goes, it's actually, Sia, you guys are close by. You can be my +1 to the dinner. And I'll swing by, pick you, then we'll go to my boss's place. Well, turns out the boss lives on the other side of town. It was not close by to me at all. But once I got to the house, I had no reason to complain at all because this house was gorgeous. You can tell that so much money was spent on it. Already just the value of the land alone is incredible. But
which part of town are we talking about here?
It was in Waterfall. So
okay, yeah,
no expenses spared there. But once you're on the property, you can't even see your neighbor, nor even think there could be a neighbor. I'm not a car person, but the cars that are just on the driveway, it's enough to make a mini luxury showroom. And you get inside the house, and there's a double staircase, and you can tell by the family photos on the wall and framed that, they've been to gorgeous places all around town. But to me, it's the small signs there of real wealth that was stunning to me. Like, there was security on the property. Then there were 2 housekeepers who welcomed you in. And then there was a chef there as well. I thought, okay, so this is different. There were Louis Vuitton vintage cases, boxes that they use as furniture, just a Louis Vuitton case on the side of the couch that they just plonk things on. I thought, how much is this? This was the kicker for me. They actually had real powder rooms in the house. I've heard of the concept of a powder room. I joke about that. But a powder room, you enter a powder room just before you enter a loo. So where you can actually sit, and there are different creams and whatnot that you can use.
What's the bet? Sia's turning his bedroom into a powder room as of tomorrow, right, Sia?
I have never seen a urinal in a house before. There was that. I was standing there going,
love that.
This is unreal that some people live like this. And, as I was standing at the urinal, you don't really have anything to do much except pee and look at a wall. And I was staring at a wall thinking, wait, this is not just wallpaper. This was fabric on the wall that had this great pattern on it. So now I'm starting to walk around the house admiring just the actual fabric on the wall. So it was just ridiculous to be in a house like this. But the things got a little awkward when, when I see people, I just see people, So it was the chef that was there. It was the housekeepers that were there. I was talking to them, and it was great and fun because there was a point in the evening where
were you mingling with the staff?
Yes. Common of me. But really, I have no issue. I talk to anyone, and it's always fun like that. But I'd have to say there was a point where my friend's boss had to go and answer the phone, and she was on the phone for a while. But my friend got caught up in the moment a little, I'll say. I wouldn't say she had a chip on her shoulder, but she had a bit of a crumb on her shoulder.
Oh, so she became a little bit posh, did she?
Mm-hmm. She was used to, so the security and this housekeeper's help, please, you're below me. We do not talk to you. When this gentleman comes in, and he was looking a little disheveled, and just with like pants and a baggy t-shirt, and he walks through the house, and my friend pays him no mind at all. I talk to this gentleman, we exchange a little, and he goes off into the house. Once my friend's boss comes back, and now we're sitting down for actual dinner, 2 seconds later, this gentleman comes back with changed outfit and also joins us for dinner. It turns out to be my colleague's husband, who my friend just like
oh shit. Oh wow. Okay.
This is why
it's embarrassing.
Everyone the time of day. Because now, you know, that was embarrassing on her behalf. But what an experience.
That's like when Oprah walked into that expensive store and wanted an expensive handbag. Was it her?
Yes.
I'm asking the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the store poo-pooed her, but she was Oprah.
Jeez.
Oprah.
You just never know who you're dealing with. Just be nice to people and decent.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Be nice to everybody. You really don't know. And then it can be so embarrassing if you get it wrong. So embarrassing. God. So try and translate this for me before we go to news headlines. Okay. Just listen to this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to play half the clip and then you'll see what I'm on about. Someone sent this to me over the weekend. I don't know what these people are saying. I do not understand this at all. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi friends, I have to do a wee shout out for Jamie Lee Weir, who's up in the Muse. Jamie Lee, say hello to everyone.
Hello everybody, gonna get blocked tonight.
Yeah. That's our wee Jamie Lee.
Hello everybody, I'll do a wee shout from me about Jamie Lee. Say hello Jamie Lee. This is a big shout out to the Glasgow boys. Yeah, I'm coming in Paul here, Jamie Lee. Say hello, Jamie Lee.
I mean, you sent it on the group. And I laughed so much, even though I didn't know what it was about. There has to be some kind of context, but I think more than anything, they're ripping off a certain English accent.
It's an accent, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know where it's either Irish or Scottish or something like that, but I can't make head or tail of it. It's very difficult to discern what is being said there.
And then obviously they're digging into the person who was at a stupid angle when she was speaking and her face was all distorted.
She's also about 700,000 times bigger than anyone who's ever been in a video in their lives.
700 stone.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I don't know what word, one single word has been uttered by any of those people in that video.
Either Jamie Lee or Jimmy Lee. That's all I got.
I like the idea, Sia, just going back to the house that you were in. And I think a lot of people like this. Andre says, I really like the idea of urinals in the living area without any privacy. That's very strange. I don't like that, but I do like the idea of a urinal in your bathroom, especially if you're a guy. And sometimes those are. No, I know you think they're revolting. I think it's no, Leigh-Ann. It takes up a whole lot less space. First of all,
no, but it's the splashing, guys. It's like Sia, when you mentioned that there was fabric wallpaper behind the urinal, I nearly sat in the coffin.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but it's the same as those people who have those little carpets that go around the base of the loo. You know those little U-shaped carpets. Also, you got those things are just a nest for all kinds of horrible things to grow.
A carpeted bathroom. No.
No, it's not a good idea. You can't carpet a bathroom. But I do like the idea of a urinal. I've got to be honest with you. Like as a dude, it's sometimes easier to just stand there and pee. And the aim is probably a lot more accurate at a urinal than it would be at a loo. Yeah. So,
Yeah, Leigh-Ann, I have to say, it's not like people pee and it's like a gushing hose pipe that you lose control of.
Why do they always stink though of urine?
Because they're used by hundreds of people. It's the
urinal at the Jolly Roger. It's different.
Yeah, Leigh-Ann. I mean, not all urinals are used by several hundred people in a day. I mean, if it's just yours, I think it can be quite clean.
700 swaying men.
Yeah, I mean, we've never at Cliff Central. We've never had that. The men's bathroom there's never smelt of anything but wee, no matter what we do to it. It's just horrible.
It gets into the grout and it never goes away.
Yeah, absolutely. People love those Jamie Lee and her friend, whatever it is. So Nico says Jamie Lee probably only uses Head and Shoulders shampoo while she's enormous. Michelle says they sound like Eshe teens in Australia. Eshe teens. Is that like chavs?
Or maybe it's a certain area.
Steph says could be Northern Irish, maybe, or gypsies. Are you allowed to call people gypsies?
I think gypsies can call each other gypsies. Although you get a lot of programs on, UK channels which have gypsy in the title, so maybe it is acceptable.
Maybe.
I don't know. Doesn't sound too PC now.
Tracy says her worst thing in the whole world are those crocheted loo seats. It's like she says that's the worst. It's like making tea in the microwave. Gross.
Yeah, they just, when you close the lid, it absorbs the droplets on the seat. That's it's a real thing. I also went when I was at my grand's house when I was little. I ran over to her loo, desperate for the loo after playing in the garden, and forgot to open the doily cover.
Oh God!
And sat on it and started weeing, and then I just couldn't stop.
Oh no! Oh no! She had to throw it away, did she?
It was soiled.
Soiled. How revolting. All right, let's look at some headlines because it is 6:30. First things first, South Africa has officially expanded mass inoculations with the arrival of Pfizer vaccines in the country. The first batch of Pfizer vaccines arrived in South Africa, and more than 325,000 doses arrived at OR Tambo International Airport just before midnight on Sunday. Last week, the government resumed its Sisonke vaccination program. The program was halted temporarily after half a dozen patients developed blood clots after being vaccinated in the United States. The new Pfizer vaccines have been stored at a central warehouse. Samples will be sent to the National Laboratory for quality assurance. So, you might get them by 2027.
No, the thing is they actually have to use them up quickly because they carry a very short expiration date. And that's the challenge in some countries where people have now refused to have the vaccine for some reason, and they're dealing with these expiring medications.
Well, we've already apparently inoculated 318,000 healthcare workers, so that's good news. And I know that there are people who really wanted this vaccine who've put their wives and their children on their payroll as staff so that they could get them inoculated. Funny, those are the same people who complain about. Oh yeah, those are the same people who would complain about corruption, but that's exactly what they're engaged in. If you would lie or make something up or tell a fib to get your wife or husband or daughter or whoever it is a vaccine before their time, then you don't really have much room to complain about crime and corruption. I just want to throw that out there.
I didn't think of it like that.
Oh yeah, people are doing that apparently. I mean, I think it's so stupid, but people are doing it. So for whatever reason.
Question: when they say they're vaccinating healthcare workers, I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, but do the likes of dentists also count, or is it literally those who are in hospital? Oh, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it's just like the staff who are in hospitals who are possibly helping COVID patients. So like a pediatrician in a small private practice. Do vets count? I'm trying to see how far we can stretch this healthcare work.
I don't know. No, I don't think vets count. But I mean, if I look at my vet, they're still practicing rules where they basically work from the parking lot and they take the animal into the practice by themselves and you stay in your car.
Listen, I know this is very dangerous territory that I'm going into here, but the Zulu Queen Mother died last week, right? And the government are now requesting an official funeral for her. But I have to indicate that I follow quite a few people, and one of those people is a guy we had on the show probably about 2.5 years ago. He tells the Zulu history through song. Buso is his name. Buso Koza, that's correct. He was saying he thinks it's a little bit dodgy that the the Queen Mother died this week, that King Goodwill died so long ago, and we still haven't got anyone new in the position of king, that his heir, the eldest son who was meant to take over, died in suspicious circumstances in 2019 in Johannesburg.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Correct. Now, I mean, if you, let's say, for example, we just take the British royal family. Let's say Prince Charles died in suspicious circumstances in a city that he normally wasn't in. And then a year or 2 years later, the Queen dies. And then also, Prince William goes missing suddenly. Or let's say he dies of something the next year. People would start to say, there's something going on there. There's, someone's trying to change the succession. Because 3 years ago, these were the three most important people in the Zulu royal family, all gone in the space of 2.5, 3 years. There's something there that's worth investigation at very least. Anyway, the KZN government has requested the presidency to declare a state funeral for the late AmaZulu Nation Queen, Shiwe Mantfombi Dlamini Zulu. She passed away on Thursday in a Joburg hospital, aged 65. Her death comes a month after she was appointed regent in accordance with the wishes of her husband, King Goodwill Zwelithini. And they say that the application is being considered by the presidency, and the provincial government will await communication on the matter. The Zulu royal family expected to meet on Sunday to finalize the Queen's funeral arrangements. So that's all going on. South Africa is expected to ban breeding lions in captivity for hunting. Now, who would not agree with that, right?
That's quite a game changer.
Yeah. On Sunday, plans were revealed to ban the breeding of lions in captivity for trophy hunting, or for tourists to pet in a bid to promote a more authentic experience. The decision was reached following recommendations contained in a study by a special government-appointed panel into the controversial practice. The panel was studying the management and rules governing the hunting, trade, and keeping of in captivity of lions, elephants, rhino, and leopard. Environment Minister Barbara Creasy told a news conference that the report said we must halt and reverse the domestication of lions through captive breeding and keeping. We don't want captive breeding, captive hunting, captive cubs, petting of these animals, the captive use of lions, the minister said. So they're obviously going hard here. They've decided they're going to get involved.
Yeah, this is a big thing.
Yeah. So I don't know what the full ramifications that might be. Which businesses might come under some strain because of this. But I don't think that lions should be kept in captivity anyway. I think it's very, very dangerous to, with these people who, they pet the lions and they live among them. And then when they get eaten 3 years down the line, people are like, oh, how terrible. It's not terrible. That's what lions do.
Yep.
I'm fairly straightforward about this stuff. I don't think that we should be mixing with wild animals just because we think it's cool and interesting. And, I understand that there are lots of people who are involved intimately in conservation, and maybe they know more than I do. Maybe.
Yeah, there are extenuating circumstances, and it's kind of like when you're watching a wildlife program and you think you're watching something particularly sad where a cub has been estranged from her mother, and you think, why doesn't the cameraman step in and just pick up the cub and put it with the mother?
Right.
There are some circumstances where lions have been abandoned and that sort of thing. I think programs like that should still exist, but I don't think they should be commercialized. Yeah,
I agree.
I'm inclined to agree too. I think that let the people who know the best here decide. It's not me and Sia and Leigh-Ann. It's the people who are involved in this stuff. Anyway, I mean, I just don't like the idea of canned hunting. That's for sure.
Absolutely not.
The SABC talking about canned hunting. It's like shooting fish in a barrel at the SABC. On Sunday, they denied claims. Listen to this. What a mess that place is. Sunday, they denied claims that they're unable to pay salaries following reports that staff did not receive their April paychecks. Can you imagine? Wow. According to the Times Live, the state-owned broadcaster failed to pay last month's salaries due to financial difficulties. If we were on our show that we used to do there, Leigh-Ann, and they didn't pay us, I would be talking about it for 3 hours on my show the next day.
Well, they did at one point. I didn't receive a salary for 3 months while I was there. There was some problem, and it was about 10 to 20% of the organization that was affected, and most of them were at Metro, and a lot of people just didn't pitch up for their jobs, which is rightly so.
3 consecutive months, you didn't have a salary.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I had to sweet talk banks and explain the situation.
I'll never forget that 1 month because I freelanced, so I wasn't ever on staff. So I used to have to submit an invoice every month. And, sometimes your invoice is, 560 Rand and 17 cents. And you have to round it up or down when you add VAT. So you add your VAT, and then let's say it's an extra, 23 Rands and 45 cents. So with 45 cents, you can either round it up or down. And 1 month, I rounded it down. In other words, it was 1 cent less than it should have been, the invoice. And they just didn't pay me for that month. They were like, no. I was like, but guys, I'm actually charging you 1 cent less. No, if you didn't round it up right. And there was no appeals process. You couldn't I've got all these debit orders coming off. I've got bills to pay, and you're just not going to pay me this month because I rounded it down instead of up. Are you insane?
And it was literally like one woman behind a little plastic window that you would slide open, who was responsible for this. But they were such conformists that you just wouldn't be paid if there was a mistake like that.
Well, it's 1 cent. It's them and the ANC. Over the weekend, I saw a letter that was sent out by the ANC explaining to some of its employees that they apologize for the delay in paying salaries, and that this phase could last for about 3 to 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. So,
oh my God. Well, listen, you want to work for the government, that's going to happen to you, I'm afraid. That's why I don't work for them anymore. Not a good situation. Anyway, according to the same article, the corporation said it has managed to recover lost ground as a result of the pandemic and is exceeding financial targets. They recently underwent a restructuring process to trim their 2.4 billion Rand annual wage bill. About 600 staff were retrenched last month. So let's see what happens at the stupid SABC. What an embarrassment. Finally, this is from BBC News. There were apparently 2 trespass arrests at Prince Andrew's house in Windsor. A 29-year-old woman and a 31-year-old man, both much too old for Prince Andrew, right? Both from London, were found in the grounds of Royal Lodge, where the Duke of York lives, on the 25th of April. Thames Valley Police said there was no risk to anyone, and they were released while inquiries continue. Followed a separate incident at Prince Andrew's home in which a 43-year-old woman was arrested, much too old for him. It was reported by the Sun newspaper the woman gained access to the Royal Lodge estate on the 19th of April by saying she was visiting for lunch with the Duke. The woman was detained shortly after, but was later de-arrested and further detained under the Mental Health Act. So she was crazy.
Oh, goodness me.
Yes.
Shame.
How's that, huh? So Prince Andrew's house is all out of bounds for everybody. And he lives in this place called Royal Lodge, which is in the park in Windsor. So it's down the road from Windsor Castle. And it's surrounded by woodland and lawns, with a woodland garden laid out in the 1930s. And the house has stood on or close to the site of the lodge since the 1660s. There's been something there. Yeah, so that's quite something. Anyway, so don't go and wandering around Prince Andrew's house. Do you know who their next door neighbor is, who lives just down the road from them?
Mm-hmm.
Elton John.
Yes.
Elton John. And I remember Prince Philip, when he met Elton John for the first time at a royal event. Elton John was introduced to him, and he said, "How do you do?" And then Elton John said something to him, and he said, "Oh, you're the person who owns that ghastly car that we always see in the park." Because he owns some kind of like fancy Bentley with a flag on it or whatever, and all Prince
no
Philip
filter.
no filter, zero.
I don't peg them for the type of neighbors that have a community WhatsApp group, right? Imagine that.
I don't think so.
Whatever the Queen's WhatsApp name and profile picture is, like Lizzie.
Imagine if she had like
and says, EJ, your music is too loud. Turn it down.
Lizzie in the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder what she'd have in her profile picture, like a corgi or something.
Yeah, she would definitely have a corgi.
Yeah. I actually pictured her dogs, or she's one of those. She took a picture of a flower in her garden, and that's her profile picture.
Yeah, my mother does that. My mom has flowers from her garden as her profile picture. She never puts her own picture on there. It's great.
With your parents, do you ever peg or able to see who their current favorite is based on their WhatsApp profile picture? Was it just dynamic in my family?
Yeah, with my parents, it's always the grandchildren. I don't think they've ever had a picture of us on either of their profile pictures, but it's always the grandchildren. They love. Well,
they're sick of you guys. They're hungry for new blood.
It's always a thing with us. So we know, like, for example, around someone's birthday, when does my mother's profile picture change? Is it, a day before your birthday, on the day itself? And then it's also, how long does it stay up? Do you stay there for just the day? Do you stay there for 2 weeks? How much she likes you. And then our favorite is just out of the blue, when she goes, oh, I miss my son. I go, yes, she still likes me. She still
cares about you. That's well done.
Doesn't she ask you why you don't have a profile picture? And remind us again why you don't?
Nah, she doesn't. Nah, I don't know. I just don't like the admin of it. And I don't really care to. So let's see. Right now, now she has herself as her profile picture.
Okay. All right. Well,
my parents don't even know how to change theirs. When I'm at their house, I change them for them.
I think it's kind of a little bit passive aggressive that Sia doesn't have a profile picture, because
really
it's very annoying, I have to tell you.
Yeah, like, rather just put a picture of you just find a picture you like of yourself and just leave it there forever. You don't have to do any admin. Then it's there. It's just done.
It feels like an incompleted form, or like, when I'm scrolling through who to send my WhatsApp to, it's like you look past it because it looks like a false account or an incompleted. I don't know. I like things to be orderly, and everyone must have their picture.
Never thought of it like that. Okay.
Yeah, it is disordered. I mean, when yours comes up, it's the only one on, and I have to scroll quite a way down before I find someone else who hasn't got a profile picture. It's just you, Sia. No, I think it's a bit passive aggressive, frankly. Just put a picture, any picture, just put one on and take a screenshot now of you and just put that on, for God's sake, and then it's done. It's not admin. I don't know what you're talking about, admin. I think I think it's like a quiet cry for attention.
Like Google Sia, and then take a screenshot of that. I mean,
you never want
the name written out. No, I mean,
you never
of the name written out.
Always updated, because there's still that Sia Sangweni soccer player who is so inarticulate. It's sad for my liking.
Oh, really? So I spoke to this dude who is a flat earther the other day, and I see a lot of people talking about that this morning. So Tracy says, by the way, great interview with David Weiss. Wow, would actually love to see a discussion with him, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Professor Brian Cox. Flat Earth sure is his gospel. So I interviewed this dude, and my whole angle was, I'm not going to mock him and ridicule him and tear him to pieces. Let me just hear what he has to say. And we spoke for probably, 40 minutes or so, Sia? And he had PowerPoint presentations, and he offered a Bitcoin to anyone who can prove to him that the Earth is round. And, there's lots of
and I
crazy
guess that
talk.
offer still stands, yes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Kala's saying, for example, that your guest from last week owes me about 100 Bitcoin. So, yeah, look, you could provide this guy with conclusive proof. He still won't believe you. Because it is like religion. It's a religious fervor. He doesn't believe the Earth is round. And he thinks that people who do that we're all stupid. We've been bought over by a big conspiracy of governments and You know, I don't know what for, and I know how governments in the 1900s and governments now have been colluding for such a long time, just to sure, Leigh-Ann, just to persuade us that the Earth is round. I mean, it's just the most bizarre thing. So, if you want to listen to it, it's really interesting. I think you should maybe go and have a just have a watch and see if you like it, and see if you agree with this guy at all. I think it could be interesting. All right, let's just move on quickly.
There as well to see how he explains things and how
you can really get deep into this stuff with him if you really want to, and go and have a look. Leigh-Ann has some interesting dash cam footage from the dramatic moment that gunshots rattled into the side of an armored cash van. I've seen this before. It's incredible.
It happened quite recently. And, I watched it, and it was on a YouTube channel, and it turned out to be a South African clip. And I noticed that the guy who was driving the car had a South African accent. And then I read up a bit on it, and it was quite hectic. And it wasn't one of these normal cash and transit vans that we see that are combi shaped and, quite reinforced. Obviously it was bulletproof, but it was like a bit of a Bucky type scenario. This guy just drove brilliantly. He kept his cool about him.
He was so calm.
And the whole point is to outrun the attackers. You're obviously protecting your cargo, but more than anything, you're protecting your life. But just how he did some amazing driving to get out of the situation. And the point is to drive to a safe place, or at least gain some vantage ahead of them, and then get out and attack with your guns, or, defend with your guns.
Yeah, listen, it's got to be... Well, it's got to be one of the hardest jobs in the world. If you're a cash and transit person, and you know those guys who take it out of the shopping centers and into their vans, and then a lot of these guys they've got a big target on their back, obviously, and it's very dangerous driving those things around, because you never know when the attackers or assailants might come out of nowhere, and they're all in on the story. I mean, they're ex-military people in some cases. They have incredible weapons. And you really take your life in your hands every time you operate one of these vehicles. Or the dude next to him in the car was like, just, you could see he was panicked completely. But you actually watch the shots hit the side of the van from the inside, because it's dash cam footage. And this driver is very, very together. He's super calm. He knows what to do. He's driving really, really well. He's kind of evading them where he can. But man, is it scary. I mean, I was sweating by the end of that video. Let's just put it up and let people see this. This is quite incredible. Take a look at this.
Shoot. Found Robbie. Found Robbie, found Josh. Ask him where they are. Fucking shoot him. Die lateral. Die lateral.
It's insane, right? I mean, I was watching the whole thing, and this is about the third time I've seen it now. I was breathing like while it's happening, and you can see the panic. I mean, those guys must have thought, okay, these are our last few moments alive on Earth. This is frightening. Man. And you see they're driving.
I'm so glad that Sia wasn't in that situation with me.
Oh my God, Sia, you would have been screaming. Can you imagine?
No, where I was getting my sense of anxiety from just the manual driving. To have to change gears so much. I'm thinking, no, that's even more thinking than clutch control. Then you try to change and reversing, and no. But I did notice though, the passenger, the guy in the passenger seat did look a little.
Shame, and you can't blame the dude. He's obviously got less experience than in these situations than the driver. And I mean, the driver, if you looked at his chest, he was panting heavily, which is a good thing because his adrenaline was pumping and it was doing what it needed to do. The other guy had a bit of fight or flight. He was a bit of the fright situation. But I mean, I take my hat off to both of them. Wow.
I don't know. I don't like the fact that we don't know how it all ended and the conclusion of it. I hope they made it out safely. But did you see the last few seconds?
They actually did. I read up on it, and they lost the guys. The guys, well, they didn't lose them, but the guys eventually realized this. They were fighting against a person who was going to fight back, and so they disappeared.
Because the last few seconds with the guy in the passenger seat considering, should I get out, should I not? That's so I would close the door after the driver's left and lock myself in, actually. Like, okay, cheers, good luck.
Lenice says that the driver is apparently a South African policeman, ex-South African policeman. Still, I've said this a million times, you know, I don't know why they have these big vans with like lots of cash in the back. If you just quietly put some old lady in the front of a car and she had 3 or 4 bags in the boot, no one would ever know.
Hidden amongst her knitting balls in a crochet basket.
You just don't tell anybody. You know, that's the point. The less people know about this stuff, the better. Such a mess. Man, it's just frightening what those people have to go through. Carl says nobody was hurt. They all got away. Nothing was stolen.
That's good.
Yeah,
it's such a traumatic thing. Now, I've been hijacked, and I've never been in the presence of any sort of a violent attack with a gun, thank goodness. But I cannot imagine what that's like. I'm in the process now, you know. I was actually surprised as I was doing calculations, or rather the counting a few days ago, that I've been without a car for 3 months now. It's been that long. And as I'm still, you know, considering what car to get, and I consult, there's one particular cousin of mine who just loves cars, so he knows what the specs are on this and what's impressive about that one. But somehow my suggestions, the cars that I'm sort of considering, he'll send me a video of that car getting hijacked, or he'll show me an article of the statistic of how many of these cars are hijacked, and he's just instilling the fear of God in me. Now I'm like, do I even want a car?
Right.
Everything, this is all scary.
I just think, apparently they were transporting cell phones. It wasn't even cash. That's according to some, So it is often inside information, says Audrey, and that is true too. It doesn't make it any easier for the people who are doing it. We've just got to get away from a cash economy as quickly as possible, where people are able to pay each other in cryptocurrency, or you can do a transfer or e-wallet or whatever the hell it is, but just to not have to deal in cash. I had to draw some money at the garage yesterday. End of the month, kind of having to pay people money stuff, and I hate ATMs. And even though I'm not a nervous guy, when I go up to the ATM and I think I drew 2,000 Rand, it's you think, this is also not the greatest place to be, is drawing money from the garage. It's even in the daytime, let alone nighttime. And if I were a woman on her own, drawing money from one of those things, I'd be very nervous.
Yeah, it's very scary. And in some situations, you just have to do it. Like, for instance, my domestic worker can only or will only be paid in cash. So I have to go and draw the money. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in a shopping center or if I'm on a roadside. You just, the fears put into you already by the warning signs and the little mirror. And you think, as the money's clicking through, are people listening and thinking, okay, that was a good amount of money, it's worth attacking this person? It's a horrible situation to be in.
Yeah, and we've got incredibly dangerous people who are running these kind of syndicates who are stealing from the cash in transit vehicles or hijacking cars. And it's organized. It's not just opportunistic crime. It's not just you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's a business.
Yeah.
Anyway, Laurel says, "Wow, my heart! I can't imagine what they must have been through." That's the whole thing. It must just be such a that poor guy, when he got home, must have been shaking like a leaf.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like he's been in these situations before. If I was in a difficult situation, he's kind of become my hero. He's like my Bear Grylls. I wouldn't mind being with him.
We can see your whole cat's tail.
And his asshole. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do anymore, I've just given up.
Now.
Flip.
Oh, man. All right. Before we get to it's 7:00 now, we may as well take the break. We got our Collectomania coming up because it's Monday, and that's always fun. And I mentioned that over the weekend I did some Collectomania of my own. So we'll be talking to Chase Kerwin, who is a sales consultant at SA Gold Coin Exchange, and he's also a collector, but he doesn't collect what you think he does. We'll find out just now. Very, very exciting stuff. And also, don't forget, you can tell us what you're up to in terms of collecting. Just send me an email, gareth@cliffcentral.com. And we got some great suggestions last week from people who have really interesting things that they're collecting. Want to find out all about it. This is your window into the world that some people are obsessed with. People like me who collect things, who have devoted up part of their house to a collection or something like that. If you've got any interest in this, you don't want to miss out at 7:30 this morning. Lots of other good stuff to come. You can message us on YouTube. You can send us an SMS or a WhatsApp on 079-748-2090. And if you want to get hold of us any other way, email's just as good. Just Gareth@cliffcentral.com. Good morning, everybody. It is 7:00.
Enjoy a great economic quarter with Nando's. Reduce wasteful spending by ordering a meal that's too good to waste. Get the quarter chicken with any single side for only 49 Rand. Nando's. Fire it up.
Do you suffer from collectivism, collectivity, collectionitis? Do you have an obsession with objects? Are you a fanatic, a devotee, an aficionado? Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of Collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating, intriguing, possibly a little weird. Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. All right, we're live, cliffcentral.com on a Monday morning, 5-day week this week. So we got lots of things to do, people to see, places to go. And we will be talking to Chase Cohen in a little while about his collection and find out what obsessions there are, what other people are doing in terms of collecting stuff. Also want to hear from you this morning, 079-748-2090. So here's an email I just got from Bronwyn. And we were talking about the Linfield Victorian House Museum on Friday. And the reason we found out about it is because we were talking about our visit there. And it was incredible. Leigh-Ann and the rest of the team, when we were still on radio, we went there to visit this place. And it's really, really interesting. Apparently, the lady is still alive and well. Her name is Catherine. We absolutely loved the whole experience, Bronwyn says. From what I remember, Catherine's mother started the whole thing. She collected things from the 1800s and put together this house museum. She and her mum built a massive doll's house. She said it took them years, and it's basically a replica of the actual house with miniature furniture to match everything. She's so passionate about the Victorian era, literally lives it as you said. She sleeps in the main bedroom of the museum, and my kids were awestruck that she physically lives there, as they cannot imagine cooking in that kitchen or having to climb a small step ladder just to get into bed. Catherine is unbelievably knowledgeable. You should get her on the show. We actually are going to try. Sia's going to try and get hold of her. She has no children to carry on the family trade and keep the museum the way that they intended. So they've actually been in contact with museum people in the UK to take it over when she can't anymore. The home the home and all the collections in it must be worth an absolute fortune. Attached are a million pictures that she put on the email. Couldn't get enough of the place. What a fantastic learning experience for the kids. So there we go. Bronwyn filling us in on the missing pieces of our story from Friday.
Love that. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Yeah, thanks, Bronwyn. Very nice. Apparently, people loved the burning platform last week. I got this email from Nikki. Nikki says, someone better call the fire department because Pumi and Lito were lighting up the burning platform. I've just finished listening to it and I was blown away. I never usually listen to the burning platform because I find the current state of affairs too depressing, but today I started and I could not stop. So there we go.
Nice.
Some very good endorsements of the burning platform from last Thursday, if you want to go and take a listen to that. That's, of course, brought to you every week by Nando's. You know, that TLC channel, I don't watch it at all. It's not my favorite channel. I skip past it normally if I'm even in front of the TV. It's the last one I'll go to. But that channel is just going further and further into the world of weird. I mean, we've talked about how, for example, they follow around these fat people, and they follow around these people who are, constantly bickering and fighting with each other. They do these terrible documentaries where they get actors to play the role of famous people, and they try to, imagine what it was like in the house when this couple had this argument or whatever. Very stupid channel.
I love it all. I totally disagree with you.
You're welcome to it. Thank goodness there are people like you that keep them in business.
Yep.
I'm surprised by the people who agree to be on the channel. Where do they find these stories? Where do they find these people? Why do these people agree? Look, I don't feel bad. I watch because they hook me in. But who are these people?
A lot of the times they'll gain some sort of benefit from it, whether it's monetary or being put in touch with the right specialist. So yeah, a lot of them are just so desperate for help, and some people from the public may donate. A lot of doctors step in and say, "I'll help you." So there are benefits.
I still get hooked every now and then with returning to Amish, and that's a focus on the Amish people who still live in a very traditional way of life. I was watching a clip over the weekend of these Amish people. This is filmed last year. These two young girls who were
going to the airport.
Went to the airport for the first time. That was a big thing for them.
And they took about half an hour to get onto the escalator because they were scared.
What? That is that is a big thing.
So they're two Amish girls. They must be, barely 20. And
but also with Amish people, you can't differentiate much with age. I don't know how the lifestyle is that makes the young ones look old, or vice versa. I don't know. They could easily be 18 to 80. We can't see the difference.
But they decide to tell their parents that they've had it and they want to go to live with their grandmother who lives in Florida. So they tell their parents. Their parents say, basically, if you leave, you're not welcome back. Don't bother coming back. Wow. So they still decide to take the trip. They get into contact via some kind of communication with a guy who is a public transport guy who's Amish as well and helps people out if they need lifts in a car. And they get into the car. The one girl has quite a crush on this guy. She's known him for ages. And they get to the airport and they cannot believe their eyes. The camera's on them and they're just looking around in absolute stunned silence. There's so much. I mean, even for us, it's a little bit daunting sometimes when you get into an airport and there's so many signs and boards and advertising and people, you don't even know where to look. And the shame. Okay, so they take about half an hour to get onto the elevator. They actually get quite pissed off with the whole idea at the end of it, and they say, "Why don't they just, use stairs? Stairs are perfectly fine." And then they get to the counter. I don't even know how they managed through the maze of ropes and barriers. Yeah. And they said, "We want a ticket. We want to go on the airplane." And the guy's like, "Can I have your ID?" And they went, "We don't have an ID. We're Amish." And he says, "Well, I can't let you onto the plane." He said, "I need some kind of photographical evidence of who you are." And that's where the clip ended. And I think it's obviously promoting a show. So I didn't see, and I don't know if you looked further to see if they eventually did make it up onto an airplane. But I'd love to watch.
You see, it's like curious to me. So I would probably watch one episode, but I wouldn't get involved in these people's lives, and I don't care if they ever got on the airplane or not. But it's interesting to me that there are people who live such strange lives, like these Amish people who are isolated from the rest of the world, and they don't use technology, and that's really interesting. But there's this other show called Extreme Sisters, which is. Oh my God! You can explain this better than me because you've actually seen it.
The premise of Extreme Sisters is it follows 5 pairs of sisters and how close they are, but basically how concerningly close they are. But the ones that have piqued my interest are these twins, Anna and Lucy. They're 35 years old. And the first point of concern for me was when they described each other as the other's soulmates. They're like, "We are soulmates. We are meant to be together. We do everything together." They're 35 years old, still dress alike. And they love each other so much that they share a boyfriend and share a bed. If that is not concerning, then I don't know what is. That is borderline incestuous and just
that's not healthy. Yeah, it's not healthy. I mean, obviously, they probably again were raised in some isolation of they haven't been socialized properly, because I get like close relatives and close siblings and whatever. That's good. That's probably healthy. But man, when it gets to a level where you're sleeping in the same bed as your sister and your best friends and your soulmates.
Sharing a boyfriend. Gareth?
Sharing a boyfriend. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous. I don't buy that for a second. I think that's nonsense.
Yeah, I can share a bed with my sibling. That's fine. I don't want to share my... just saying it is weird.
No, that's not good. I think that there are probably also, these shows have opened up a world of mental health issues to the rest of us who didn't know that there were people like this. I mean, most of us think because we're fairly normal, right, that everybody's normal. The world is full of crackpots and nutcases and crazies. Yep. You're not normal.
Completely.
You think you're normal, but there are people out there who are way more normal than you, and there are people out there who are way weirder than you. Just a disaster zone.
It's the whole thing of seeing other people in situations that makes you feel better about your life, right?
Well, I mean, that's some of the reason I love going onto Instagram is that. I mean, I've told you about that woman with those enormous tits who I follow on Instagram, just because she's got the most incredibly bizarre life. And she's got these breasts that are easily the size of, each one is the size of one of those, those world globes that you can,
yes.
It's on it's on a stand and you can turn it around and all that. Each of them is as big as that. And she plays the piano around them and all kinds of stupid stuff. And I wake up some mornings and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I'm like, wow, this woman's life is just so weird with these enormous big breasts. And it's so important to her that she has these big breasts. I mean, she posted a picture the other day of what she looked like before them. And she was actually quite an attractive woman. She clearly got addicted to the idea of plastic surgery. And it's such an important part of her identity now that she has to have these huge breasts that everything else comes second and third and fourth to her. Weird, wild, insane. And then, you follow those people. They're also those people you follow because they're not all there. There's a screw missing. The lights are on, but nobody's home. And you follow those people just to kind of feel grounded and normal about things. Because sometimes we all give ourselves a hard time, right? We're like, I shouldn't have done that, or why did I think that, or what have I done here? Or you give yourself a very low points in life for maybe the way you've handled situations, or and then you look at these people on Instagram and you're like, I think I'm okay. I think I'll be all right. Am I being unfair? I mean, this really is how a lot of us feel. Don't you think?
Leigh-Ann, you're muted.
Damn it. Sometimes it can be motivational.
We even stopped keeping track of how many 10 rand you should have put into a jar by now, because it's not even fair on you at this point if we were to charge you.
So annoying.
Got a swear jar.
But yeah, so obviously feeling depressed and lazy sometimes, it can really help watching a Dr. Phil show where a guy hasn't left his bed in 2 years because he's so depressed and his mother has to feed him. Right. It makes you think, oh, I can actually do this. I'll get up and shower and clean the kitchen and do my tasks and my chores.
Correct.
So
life's not
can
so
be
hard.
Motivational. Yeah.
That's what I mean. We were talking about it's going to be May.
Yes.
When we were talking last week about May the 1st. So this came up on my Facebook today. It's a picture of Brian May, and it goes, and once again, May is here.
That is quite a mop of hair.
Yeah,
Brian
always.
May, sure.
And now
Brian
it's
May,
white. Now it's silvery white.
Silver. All right. What else is going on in your agenda this morning? Sia, Leigh-Ann, what's on your page to be discussed today?
So I quite like looking into the dating habits of people during difficult times, like during COVID. So there are actually quite a few terms that have come up which label the situations that we find ourselves in as daters during quarantine and the pandemic and lockdown.
Right.
And what's quite interesting is that there is something called COVID cuffing. And,
cuffing?
Yeah. And
what is that?
That sounds violent.
It does sound a little bit sexual, yes. But it's also a lot of information which dating sites have been able to put together, and in finding what people are looking for during these times. And there's definitely been an increase in the number of people who are no longer looking for casual hookups, but are looking for longer term relationships. And the thing as well is that a lot of people have been kind of forced into these relationships, or been fast-tracked into these relationships where they would have progressed naturally another way. So for instance, in our country, lockdown hasn't affected us in as big a way as it has in parts of Europe. And a lot of people heading into lockdown were at a point of their relationship where perhaps they weren't living together yet. And yet they decided that they would become lockdown buddies, or it would be called a quarantine fling if it wasn't going to last.
Well, here's the problem with that is I know we discussed this right at the beginning of the pandemic and lockdowns and all that stuff a year ago. Can you believe it? A year ago. And the thing that struck me was that there were some people who had just started dating, or they just started getting to know each other, and then they decided, oh, well, what the hell? We may as well go into lockdown together. And one or two of them, it worked out really well. We all know a story of how it's turned out for the better, but many other stories where it's gone much, much worse because people honestly don't know. They're not sure how to deal with this stuff. And it's such a bizarre and artificial way to live, especially in that first stretch of lockdown. And when I say, can you believe it's a year ago? I mean, a year ago today, we weren't allowed to exercise in public. We weren't allowed to walk. And then they opened up that window between 8 and 9 where you could walk the dog or you could go on a bike or whatever, but you had to mask and you had to stay away from other people. And do you remember all those rules? It's only a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And for some people, their relationships took huge strain. And I know marriages that broke up during lockdown, and I know of other people who did get together during lockdown. So, it varies depending, obviously, on the situation for each person in each situation, in each set of circumstances.
And so now there are a lot of people who are realizing it was maybe just a quarantine fling. And because it was such a scary time as well, people were driven by the fact that they just didn't want to go through it alone. And they wanted someone to be with them during that time, which I completely understand. I wouldn't want to put it into practice on my own, but I do understand. And it also reminded me of at what different stages we are throughout the world we're at, in terms of either wearing masks or not going to a store at all. And one of the crazy things that I watched over the weekend was a TikTok live, which was just this guy who had obviously propped up his shop. He's a shopkeeper, and he propped up his phone at the till. So the camera was facing all the people. It was like to us, it would be a convenience store, just at the garage.
Right.
And just this endless queue of people I was watching it live. So it was 3 o'clock in the morning for me, but obviously nighttime in the US. And people were stopping by to get their beers, as they do in the US, which you can get from your garage. And it was so interesting to see that there was only one person out of about 100 that I saw who was wearing a mask. And the other thing that was interesting was that people really don't have money. They were scraping together coins to buy just one beer. Their cards were being declined. It's a scary situation. They're trying to have a normal Friday night, but just the stress of buying one beer because they know they can't afford it is high.
God, that's horrible. That is so horrible. Oh,
pretty grim to watch at 3 o'clock in the morning, but interesting nonetheless, and quite addictive.
Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think we're going to? Where do you think we're going to go after all of this? I mean, now we've been through this really weird year, and I know dating is really difficult because I've got friends who are actively trying to date at the moment, and it's tough. It's tough out there trying to find someone. I mean, we always, we talk about Mbulelo and Ben and all the guys on the show. But I'll tell you what, there are people out there who are having a much more difficult time than any of them. And I don't know whether this is going to change humans and the way that we interact with each other forever, or whether it's just a blip on the radar, whether this is just this very strange, once in a lifetime kind of event, and we'll all just go back to normal after this. We'll just go straight back to where we were before. People will meet each other. They'll go for dinners. They'll have drinks together. They'll go on a coffee date. They'll go to movies. They'll do all those things that we used to do and have normal interactions, or if it's all changed forever.
I think we'll think that we're back to normal, and we'll just kind of adapt and get on with our day-to-day lives, not analyzing anything too much. But I think if you look back in history, there is going to be a big blip on the radar where things were changed in society and in dating practices, relationships, marriages, divorces. I mean, look how it's changed working from home for enormous organizations that now have these massive buildings which are 1% full. When we look back so in decades' time, when we look back, we'll see statistical blips, I'm sure.
Yeah, I feel sorry for people who are really trying to like find someone. If you're in your 20s right now, it's very hard to find like a good match. I mean, you could use these apps and things, but I don't think that works very well. It doesn't work for everybody. And that's more, in my opinion, just like a hookup thing. If you actually want to meet people, though, where do you go? What do you do these days to meet people?
I have no idea what. Don't know.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm pleased that I don't actually want to be in a relationship now. And if that changes, obviously, if that changes, I wouldn't know where to start. But it kind of works out for me that lockdown I loved, and I know Andre says here he loved it as well. I loved lockdown. I had all this time to myself. I didn't have to leave the house. In some ways it was like a dream. But if I were the kind of person who wanted to be with someone, my God, it would have driven me crazy.
Yeah.
I would have gone very seriously down the tubes.
You remember going on holiday with your parents, for instance, when you were in high school or varsity, and how frustrating it would be if you were in a part of the holiday town which wasn't the cool part, or they didn't want to go to the cool beach, or they'd avoid the main road, the cool road, because there was too much traffic. And you remember how much you craved that, and how much you craved being able to walk down a street and possibly bump into you with a group of girls and there's a group of guys, or that you might end up meeting them and having a holiday romance. You think of that absolute desperation. And the thought of going to bed at 9 o'clock at night would actually put you in an asylum.
Yeah.
So
go crazy.
I'm very glad that I wasn't at that stage of my life during lockdown. That's for sure.
But I also feel like we're very resilient as people. And as much as so much has changed over the last year and a bit, we also adapt quite quickly. And I wouldn't say we adapt quite easily, but we adapt quite quickly to think that, yes, there was that time that feels so foreign to us now that we would, be allocated time to walk our dogs in gym. But we got used to that so quickly. And then as soon as that was over, we moved with the times. And, remember, I don't know if you guys went through this proper extremist way where you would carry your sanitizer and even put gloves on and then put sanitizer on top of the gloves, and then you double mask and then go out to the shop. And then when you come back from the shops, you would wipe all of your groceries down, and how we move and adapt very quickly. So I think even now, yes, there's this curfew that still doesn't necessarily make sense. And once they lift that, we'll move on. We'll adapt.
On that note, can I just ask quickly, because I don't know for sure, but has the government's state of disaster been extended, or are we just carrying on and no one's made any announcements? Because It was meant to have expired on the 15th of April. And if it hasn't expired, then why are we still bothering with all of these rules? And if it has expired and government haven't told us that it's expired, why doesn't Cyril just go on TV and say, okay, guys, it's over? There's something odd about that. I want to know what the answer is.
I kind of feel like I've missed the memo, and I put it down to the fact that I'm just not that interested anymore.
Maybe.
And maybe it has happened, but I never noticed it.
So listen. No, I want us to, sorry, Leigh-Ann, I didn't mean to cut you off in mid-sentence there. I want to just get on to our Collectomania this morning, because this is something we've been talking about all morning, and now we can finally get started on it. So this is something we look at once a week, and last week we actually spoke to my brother, of all things, about his collections, and the week before we spoke...
Of all people.
Of all people, because, well, I mean, listen, he had a lot to say. He had some interesting stuff to tell us. And this morning we're going to speak to Chase Cohen, who is a sales consultant at SA Gold Coin Exchange, and he's also a collector. So we're going to find out what he collects, and this is pretty amazing, because you could collect anything. You can collect stuff that is valuable or stuff that just fascinates you. And Chase is with us this morning to tell us about what he collects. Hey, Chase, how you doing, man? Chase, can you hear us?
Morning, everyone. Well, thanks, and yourself.
Yeah, good. All right, so Chase, first of all, welcome to the show. It's nice to see you. Yeah, perfectly. What is it you collect?
Thanks very much. So I collect pretty much anything creepy crawly. I've got a boatload of tarantulas, quite a few squirrels, quite a large snake collection, lizards here and there.
Oh my God.
Anything creepy crawly, really.
Can I just ask, you're not going to show us any of this stuff, right? Because if you are, I need to go away.
So I did anticipate for having my collection in the background this morning. Unfortunately, I had a few things to do this morning and work out quite the way I had planned. But I was anticipating showing you.
Thank goodness.
Okay, so basically you made Leigh-Ann's day by saying you're not going to show all your crazy collection. So when did you...
You're not a big fan?
No, well, don't get me wrong. I have arachnophobia, but anything else I'm very interested in, and I love snakes, so I'd be absolutely fine with snakes.
Okay, I see.
All right, so Chase, let's just talk about you for a second. When did you start collecting, and how did this all begin for you? Where are you actually from?
Shucks. So I was born in Durban, and I sort of got hooked on the sort of snakes and spider scene at a very, very young age. My uncle Kyle, he's always been into that. He used to go snake hunting as a teenager, and when I was born, he sort of invited me into it. He took me out on my first snake hunt, and we saw all sorts of things, from centipedes to lizards and snakes and spiders. So it was really, really great, and I got hooked ever since. Caught my first snake on the first hunt that we went on, and then my sort of that was at 8 years old, and then my first tarantula was at 10. And I've just been hooked ever since. I'm 23 now, so it's been 13 years of solid collecting and looking after animals. So my collection has grown quite substantially, but I've just been hooked, and I can't wait to increase my collection further. It's not going to stop anytime soon, that's for sure.
Now, Chase, there's a huge difference between collecting things like I collect books or coins or any of that stuff, because those are not alive. You don't have to keep them alive. When you have collections of living things like you have to feed these things.
Yes. There's obviously a lot of work that pertains to keeping the collection, but I think that's part of the passion. I thoroughly enjoy cleaning my tanks and feeding my animals. So, I think it's just as someone would polish and clean their guns, I look at it the same. Just polish and clean my.
Well, I'm just looking at this. I'm going to put up a picture quickly of some of your stuff.
No, please, what?
Yeah.
No,
Leigh-Ann, just It's just the room. It's just the room that he keeps all the stuff in. It's amazing. I mean, look at this. Look at all those tanks. That's phenomenal, dude. That's in your house?
Yeah, it's actually in the back section of the garage.
Wow, it's incredible. How many different animals do you have there? Have you counted them up?
Shucks, I stopped counting quite a while ago, but if I have to put a number to it, I would say over 60 tarantulas. Got a collection of probably about 10 very, very venomous scorpions. Quite a selection of snakes and other reptiles. The tarantulas are definitely by far the most impressive just because of their sheer numbers. But I definitely have some beauties that I'm very passionate about in my collection. So
yeah, Leigh-Ann has actually moved away from the camera, so she doesn't have to see it. But tarantulas are beautiful, beautiful creatures. I mean, what's the biggest one you've got there? Is it as big as the palm of your hand?
So it's actually bigger. She's a kluggy bird eater. She's probably almost the size of a dinner plate right now. Just a few more molts and she'll be there. But yeah, she's definitely bigger than the palm of your hand.
That's amazing. All right, so when it comes to feeding these creatures, you obviously have to keep a whole lot of stuff. You have to buy up and make sure that you've got all the equipment, and then you have to clean these tanks, as you said already. It sounds like a full-time job. How much of your time does it take up?
Quite a lot of my time. I won't lie, the tarantulas are very, very low maintenance. They're quite territorial animals, so they don't like to be bothered terribly often. But in terms of feeding and sort of watering, that is quite a lengthy process that happens every weekend. So I got my work cut out for me, that's for sure.
Unbelievable, dude. And you catch these snakes. Do you have any dangerous snakes? Any really, really poisonous ones? Really deadly ones?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a few mildly venomous ones. Exotic snakes that obviously don't need any permits for. Not very life-threatening though. I think the most dangerous snake I've ever owned is a puffer. But there were a few issues around the permit with that. So, going around the law, I just sold the snake on. So, yeah, she's
hang on.
My most potent. Yeah.
What was that? Because you broke up when you were telling us what kind of snake it was.
Oh, shucks, sorry. No, so the most venomous snake that I've ever had is a puff adder, but there were logistical issues. So I got rid of her.
Oh, that's not a nice animal to have. So listen, I think this is just amazing. We don't worry if you've been struggling to hear Chase. We've been trying to boost the sound on this side, but we'll fix that all up in the podcast, and you can catch up later. I think this is the most amazing collection, and I reckon you're probably one of those people who. You said you're what, 23 now?
Yeah, 23.
So you've got lots of time still, and obviously you will spend more and more of your time and more of your money in the next 20, 30 years adding to this collection. It's just going to grow and grow and grow. Do other people like it? Are your family happy with this? Are your friends happy with this? Or do they think that you're a bit weird?
Okay, so first of all, you're absolutely right in saying I'm going to throw more money and time into the collection. I'm hooked and definitely won't stop anytime soon. In terms of my family and friends, I don't have a lot of supporters. I won't lie. Obviously, my uncle, the guy who introduced me to it all, he gets his jaw sort of drops every time he sees the collection increase. But in terms of my friends and other family, they don't really like it, but it is a good conversation starter for when you walk into the home.
It's amazing, dude. Listen, congratulations. I love that there are people who are collecting all kinds of things, living and dead, and the fact that you've got all of this going on is just awesome. So there he is, Chase Kerwin. He's got spiders, he's got snakes, he's got all kinds of creepy crawlies, and that's his obsession. I love it. What an awesome thing to do. Thanks, dude. Nice to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Cheers, very good. There's Chase Kerwin. How's that, Leigh-Ann? Now you can take a big deep breath. Leigh-Ann just went through. She just went through what you remember that guy we were talking about in the cash and transit car earlier. That dude who was huffing and puffing and having a really tough time. His adrenaline was flowing. He was trying to drive carefully when those guys were shooting at him. Leigh-Ann has just had the similar experience just from hearing about spiders.
Yeah, I had to I had to take my headphones off and take a little bit of a walk around the house, obviously with my arms closed tightly against my body. You see, a cat just walked past and I shot myself.
So is it spiders of any kind, of any size?
Yes,
just
the S word. Just the S word.
Okay. Perhaps I didn't even talk about
Very difficult. Very difficult. And it gets worse with age, I'm afraid. But yeah, so there we are.
See, I reckon a guy like Chase could probably charge people money to come and see the animals, because you think about it, people go to zoos and they go to reptile parks and they go to all these places, and he's got spiders the size of a dinner plate. I mean, some people will pay money to come and see that.
But then what were we speaking about earlier about breeding wild animals in captivity and getting people to pay to see them?
Yeah, but that's lions. I mean, insects, I think it's slightly different. I used to, whenever we went to a zoo or a snake park or anything when we were kids, I would get home and want to build my own immediately. Be like, let's capture some stuff and put it in little tanks. And obviously I was crap at it, so I never really got to do it. But I love this stuff. So listen.
I've never had an inkling. I've never wanted to. Just thinking about I wouldn't even be able to rest comfortably in a house knowing that even in the garage, in Chase's case, it's right close
to Gareth.
Yeah, and it's just very.
Can you not see what's on the glass in the foreground of the image?
Very neatly organized collection that he's got going on there. I love that. That's great. You got to display these things properly too if you're going to have them, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Mustn't be disorganized and chaotic, and he seems very organized with all that stuff. I love it. So we're going to find out what your obsession is, and if you have collectivism or collectivity or collectionitis or whatever you want to call it, an obsession with objects or spiders or whatever it might be, if you're a fanatic, a devotee, or an aficionado, you must tell us about it. We want to know all about what your collections are, just like Chase's this morning or my brother's last week. And you can tell us by sending me an email, gareth@cliffcentral.com. Remember, this is all brought to you by the SA Gold Coin Exchange, which, now there's something worth collecting, is gold coins. You'd be very happy if you did. And if you haven't and you want to start now. You know, you'd be surprised. There are collector's items that you can get from the Scoin shop, and they have a number of branches across the country, but you can always just look them up, and we'll put all the links on the page on cliffcentral.com for the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin shop. You can find out all about other people's collections by joining us every Monday to find out what people are collecting and how they display them and where they put them and what they have to do with them, how they started, and everything else. We want to know your stories of what you've collected too. Ruth says, I respect spiders.
Apart from the fact that, you know, coins are cool to collect, they also will make Leigh-Ann feel better than collecting other things, please.
Oh, yes. Hell yes. Absolutely. So Ruth says, I respect spiders. They're an important part of our ecosystem. We don't know how we've impacted on microorganisms with all our pesticides and pollutants. And that's true. I mean, I'm exactly the opposite of Leigh-Ann. I have no problem with spiders at all. In fact, I find that they are the ones who, they eat the mosquitoes and the other pesky insects that I'd rather not have around. So when I find spiders, I haven't got a problem with them.
I think people should perhaps try and understand this a little bit better. A phobia is an irrational fear. So my rationality is telling me that spiders are great for the ecosystem.
I know.
A lot of them aren't poisonous. I'm not scared of having a spider bite. I've had many. I've had ones where I've ended up in a doctor's room because and almost been knocked out with antihistamines because it was so bad. I really have no problem with that. I know it's not going to eat me or kill me. It could kill me if I was in Australia, perhaps, or the more dangerous ones here. But those are not the problem. I have a problem with the image of a spider and creatures with 16 legs, because that's what it looks like to me. So it's an irrational fear. I know it makes no sense, and I do respect them. I just cannot have them around me.
I'm the same irrational fear of lizards. I mean, you know, what a stupid thing to be afraid of. Everybody's got some fear. And I think it comes from childhood, or it comes from someone telling you a story when you're an impressionable age, or whatever it might be. And then it never gets out of your head unless you then sit down with a therapist and they actually help you face your fears and work you through it. That's probably what most of us never get to do. But it is cute. So I'm just pleased that there are people who are collecting and looking after these things, and some of us who want to stomp on them, but the people who actually look after them, good for them. You never know. And we don't know, but Chase might end up being the biggest collector in the world one day. You start off small and you end up huge.
It actually reminds me of the last time I saw my nephew, who's now 9 years old, and he's going through that typical boyish, I want to kill or capture everything in my path. And it's so, because my father is just a quiet gentleman. I didn't have any brothers, so this is the first time I'm encountering this like visceral, just masculine energy, and I don't know how to actually deal with him now. Whatever, there's a bug in front of him, he's like, I'll throw something at him. I'm like, what is going on? Or there's a bug, then he wants to see it up close. He wants to like grab it from the tree. He wants to just like play with it in his hands. He wants to bring it back into the house. Now I'm like, stay away from me, you little weirdo. Actually, I jokingly say to my sister, I can't talk to him up until he changes out of this process. I'll talk to him in 4 years' time.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier, just to wrap up on the collections, I mentioned earlier that I went on Saturday to a place in Johannesburg called the Collector's Treasury, which really, it is exactly that. It's just endless piles of books and shelves full of books and rooms full of books and stuff piled from floor to ceiling. And you find some incredible things there. And that place is a bit of an institution in Johannesburg. You have to wear a pair of gloves and a dust mask, though. Trust me, otherwise it's just not the place you want to find yourself. And avalanches of books, just everywhere you look. Incredible stuff. So I think, like anything, these interests and hobbies can very quickly turn to obsessions, and you can become a bit weird. People will start to look at you strangely, as we've discussed a number of times. A little bit eccentric. And like, you think you're at the tip of the iceberg, and I'll just show them my little collection of butterflies. Next thing you know, you've got 3 rooms in your house that are entirely devoted to this, and you've stopped using your bathroom because you need extra space.
That's your party trick.
All right. Very good. We're going to take a couple more messages and emails. You can get hold of us on 0797482090. Tell us what you're up to this Monday morning. We've got the TV show to record today, Sia. We're back in studio after we didn't have to go last week. And with that public holiday on the 27th, I mentioned already that I don't think we're going to get June 16th, because isn't it also on a weekend? Just have a look quickly. Because that's the next public holiday, and I don't think we get a bonus day there. I think it's a Saturday.
No, it's smack bang in the middle of the week. When?
Oh, okay.
Nice.
All right.
I have a public holiday today because of the UK company that I work for. It's a bank holiday today.
Oh, very nice. Leigh-Ann Mole. Look at you.
Yeah.
I didn't even think a lot of people noticed that we had a public holiday since it fell on a weekend.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who was completely oblivious on Saturday. They're like, huh? Oh, sorry, I didn't even know. Anyway, it was our birthday as well. We turned 7, cliffcentral.com. So again, I've said this on the show. I said it last week already, but a big thank you to everybody who's been there from day one. We would not be able to do even a tenth of what we have over these 7 years if it wasn't for our incredible audience, the clients that we have who are just the best ones you could possibly imagine, the extended family, our team, everybody who's kept the wheels turning all of these 7 years. It's just such a great story to be able to tell 7 years down the line, and we're just going from strength to strength. So let's see what happens next. Onward and upward, right? Very exciting. 7 years in the mix.
Nice.
Yeah, if it was a baby, it would be going to grade 1 now. we've raised a child.
What? Is that how school works now? I was 5 when I went to grade 1.
But you were very advanced, Leigh-Ann. You're a very advanced child.
I think grade 1 is 7. I think that's when you enter. But one doesn't note how much they change in the moment because you're living it. But over the weekend, as the team was sharing memories and photos of our birthdays over the years, you really realize, we have all changed.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Grown up, and some of us have not just grown up, we've got old. But I can't believe it's been 7. It doesn't feel like 7 years. I mean, it really does. I can still remember that first show and all the nerves and the fact that we were on TV as well. It was really a totally new thing. No one's ever done anything like that before in South African television and radio.
To me, that feels like a lifetime ago, which is really odd.
Really? No, it feels like just yesterday. Unbelievable.
I like the comment from Basit Sana who says, been with you guys since day 1. This is my longest relationship.
Yeah, that's about right. Mine too.
Yeah, I had lunch with Ben over the weekend as well. And
how did that go?
He made me realize that we have been doing this and it is more than a fifth of my life. When you put it like that.
Gee whiz.
Unbelievable.
More than a fifth of my life has been here. So I don't know if that just says how long we've been doing this or says how short my life is. I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, for those people who are obsessed with cryptocurrencies, and it's been a bit of an up and a down journey for the last little while. Well, certainly there've been a lot of ups and downs, let's put it that way. $58,000 this morning again, and Ethereum at $3,099. So if you are in crypto, you're excited about waking up this morning. That's good news. Since it is a full 5-day week, we've got lots going on. We want to know from you what's on your mind. And don't forget that if you've got any ideas for collections, then you must let us know about that too on email. Gareth@cliffcentral.com is the email address that you can send it to. So I found out that apparently this is a headline I saw on the internet the other day, and I looked it up, and it turns out to be true. If you're 18 years old, you can actually adopt a 17-year-old.
That is so bizarre.
Is that weird?
What?
So if you're 18, you can legally adopt a 17-year-old as your child, even though there's only 1 year's difference between you.
Okay, obviously there are 2 parts to the scenario to consider. So let's look at the first. How are you able to adopt at the age of 18?
Because you're legally an adult. So you can actually adopt a child, and a child is legally anyone under 18.
Yeah, I suppose the chances of an 18-year-old being able to adopt someone are quite low because they have to be financially stable and all the rest of it.
No, you see, like in many families in South Africa where, say, the parents have died of AIDS or something, and the kids have had to raise themselves, or the granny's been raising them, then the eldest sibling will very often adopt the younger siblings, or someone will help them to arrange that legally. But they've probably been in charge of the household anyway for most of their lives up to that point. But it's a very weird thing to think about, because there's a part of me that understands it the way I've just explained, that, that in some families, the eldest sibling has to take on the responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. But the other part of me is like, what ridiculous situations could you imagine where, like, one of your friends that you're in matric with, one of your friends who's in matric is like, he turns 18 first, so he adopts like 3 people in the class that are his mates because they're only 17.
Hey, then they can sign for it.
Yeah,
exactly. On their friend's behalf. That's actually a bit of a business.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it could easily be 2 best friends, and perhaps the one has a really horrible family life and they want to get out of it. I kind of imagine going to my mom and saying, please, can I help Sally because she's going through a terrible time? Please, can she live with us? And my mom's saying no. And then you turning around and saying, well, I'm 18. Actually, I'm adopting her.
It's not Sally anymore. It's your new granddaughter, Mom.
Yeah. Congratulations, you're a granny with your daughter who's only 18. I think that's pretty wild. But if you think about it, it is just a stupid scenario. you have to legally have a cutoff date for when someone is an adult and when someone is a child. And if you're 18, you could probably legally adopt a 17-year-old. Something to think about.
So weird.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there are stranger families than that before, and they're probably all on that channel that you and Leigh-Ann have, that TLC channel. I'm surprised there isn't a show called I'm 18, I just adopted a 17-year-old.
You're probably giving them an idea right now if they're listening. Don't be surprised in 6 months' time when that's a thing.
No, they've rolled out their brand new show. Don't say you didn't hear it first here. Lots of lovely messages from people. Harmin says, you guys should have a birthday party with all the day one fans that stuck with you. Surely you know more or less who they are. Oh, yeah, we will, but I think it should be an online one. You know, the people who've been listening to us from day one are from all over the world. And you know this. We've spoken to so many of them during the course of these 7 years. So we have people all over the world who have been part of the Cliff Central family. And it's just great to know that there are fans of ours who've stuck with us for 7 years, and we haven't chased away in 7 years. That's pretty cool. Tracy says, is Cliff Central 7 in human years or dog years? I still remember the first broadcast that went live on DSTV. Definitely human years, I think. Kevin says, well done, guys, on the 7th birthday. Love the show and all the stuff that you discuss and expose us to. And then Gary says on this issue of 1718 and then the state of emergency that we spoke of, so legally we aren't in a state of disaster anymore. So apparently that means we don't have to wear our masks. I suppose the sheeple will wear them until kingdom comes. But I don't know for a fact, Gary, if the state of disaster is actually over. This is what I'm asking. Somebody said to me over the weekend, a friend of mine, like, can we just find out whether or not the state of disaster has actually run out? Because if it has, then it's really, I think, quite cheeky of the government to not tell us that we are out of lockdown, because technically that's what it is, which means the end of curfews, means the end of all the mask mandates, means the end of all of that stuff. I mean, you can obviously still carry on doing that if you want to. No one's going to stop you. And there are many people who will carry on wearing masks and would prefer that there's sanitizer everywhere. And that's entirely their right. But if it has ended, then why haven't they told us?
Peter messaged earlier to say the state of emergency has been extended until the 15th of May. So there are various reports one would need to check.
I was going to cite that as well. According to Business Tech, this is an article that was released 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma announced the extension of South Africa's national state of disaster by a further month. In a gazette that was published on the 14th of April, Dlamini-Zuma stated the state of disaster will now continue until the 15th of May, 2021.
Okay, so keep extending it month after month. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Doesn't change my life. Very little's actually changed in terms of that. But I do wish we could do without these masks. As I said, I went out on Saturday, and I probably only put it on as a show, really. You know, you put it on when you walk into a restaurant, you take it straight off again. You put it on when you get into an Uber, and then you ask the driver, and if the driver doesn't mind, you could take it off. So it's all just a show. I mean, I don't wear a mask 24/7 like other people, and I don't have to in my work, thank God. So it's really only when I'm traveling around or when I walk into a place, when I walk out again, that I have to put it on. So to me, it's really not making much of a difference now anyway. It's kind of ridiculous. Gary's upset, though, that it has been extended. He goes, damn. In terms of all of that stuff.
Gary.
No.
Damn.
All right, well, that's all we got time for this morning, everybody. So we will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have an excellent day. CliffCentral.com has got lots of great content for you through the course of this afternoon. And if you didn't listen to the interview or watch the interview that I did with a flat earther, you might want to check that out today as well. You might find him really interesting or really annoying. It's totally up to you. But the idea there was to just hear what this guy has to say. And he's totally convinced that the earth is not round and that we've been lied to. That's his position. Yeah. So you might want to take a listen to what he has to say. All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.